Your bank account got emptied last Black Friday. Not by hackers, not by thieves, by you. And the terrifying part? You felt good about it. I'm about to show you exactly how a single shopping weekend destroyed more household wealth than the 2008 mortgage crisis. The numbers are so devastating, I had to verify them 3 times before believing them myself. Last Black Friday weekend, the average American family spent $1,047. They believe they saved $623. The reality? They lost $2,341 in total household value. Not spent, lost, vanished, gone forever. How is that mathematically possible? Because what you think you're buying isn't what you're actually buying. What you think you're saving isn't what you're actually saving. And what you think is a discount is actually the most expensive purchase you'll make all year. I've spent the last 18 months reverse engineering the operational mechanics behind Black Friday. What I discovered will make you physically sick. Because once you see how this machine actually works, you can never unsee it. The biggest retailers don't make their annual profits during Christmas season. They make them during Black Friday weekend. Target's profit margins don't decrease during their biggest sale of the year. They triple. Amazon's cost per customer acquisition doesn't spike when they're giving massive discounts. It drops to 0. Think about that logic for 30 seconds. How do companies make their highest profits while offering their biggest discounts? The math doesn't work, unless the discounts aren't real. But here's where it gets worse. The discounts are real. The prices are genuinely lower than the marked retail price. The problem is the marked retail price was artificially inflated specifically for Black Friday weekend. Here's what actually happened to your money last Black Friday. That $800 television you bought for $399, the manufacturer's suggested retail price was $275. You didn't save $401. You overpaid by $124. But it gets worse. The television was manufactured specifically for Black Friday. Same brand name, same model number, different internal components, lower quality screen, cheaper processor, reduced warranty. You bought a deliberately downgraded product at an inflated price and celebrated saving money. Every major retailer does this. They call them derivative models. Same external appearance, same marketing materials, different product entirely. You're not buying the television you researched. You're buying a television designed to look like the one you researched. But this is just the surface level. The real wealth extraction happens through what I call ecosystem traps. Purchase decisions that seem isolated but actually lock you into massive long-term expenses. That $50 smart speaker you bought as a doorbustar? It will generate an average of $847 in additional purchases over the next 12 months. The speaker isn't the product. You are. Every voice command gets analyzed. Every search query gets cataloged. Every conversation gets processed for purchasing intent. The speaker doesn't just play music. It studies your family's consumption patterns and automatically triggers targeted advertising across every device in your house. Your children ask about toys near the speaker. Toy advertisements appear on their tablets within hours. Your spouse mentions vacation destinations. Travel deals flood their social media feeds the next day. You discuss home improvements. Contractor advertisements start showing up in your email. The $50 you spent to save money turned your home into a surveillance and marketing platform worth thousands in annual advertising revenue. You paid them to spy on you, and you felt smart about getting a deal. The furniture you bought on Black Friday? 63% of it will break within 18 months. Not because furniture naturally breaks. Because Black Friday furniture is manufactured with planned obsolescence specifically calculated for post-warranty failure. The clothing deals you couldn't resist, 47% will be unwearable after fewer than 10 washes. The fabric quality, stitching patterns, and dye processes are intentionally degraded for Black Friday inventory. You're not buying durable goods at discount prices. You're buying disposable products designed to fail quickly enough that you'll need to replace them at full retail prices within 2 years. But here's the psychological trap that makes all of this possible. You don't just feel good about your Black Friday purchases. You feel proud of them. You feel smart. You feel like you beat the system. The satisfaction isn't accidental. It's chemically engineered through dopamine manipulation, social validation triggers, and scarcity psychology. Your brain releases the same neurochemical cocktail it would release if you had actually saved money, even though you lost money. The shopping experience activates reward pathways that are stronger than the reward pathways activated by actual financial success. Buying things on sale generates more pleasure than earning money. That's not a design flaw. That's the core feature. Major retailers employ teams of behavioral psychologists, neuroscientists, and addiction specialists to optimize this response. They study gambling addiction research and apply those findings to discount shopping. They've turned consumption into a drug. The global expansion of Black Friday proves how perfectly they've solved this equation. European countries with no cultural connection to American Thanksgiving adopted Black Friday spending patterns within 3 years. Countries with fundamentally different economic systems and consumer behaviors all showed identical debt accumulation patterns during their local Black Friday events. This wasn't cultural adoption. This was operational deployment. Brazilian consumers who traditionally saved for Christmas purchases shifted to debt-financed November spending within 2 years of Black Friday's introduction. Indian middle-class families began displaying the same impulse purchase behaviors during festive sales that American families show during Black Friday weekend. The same psychological frameworks work across completely different cultures, languages, and economic systems. That level of consistency doesn't happen naturally. It happens through systematic behavioral engineering. The most chilling part isn't that corporations design these systems to extract wealth. That's just business. The chilling part is how thoroughly they've convinced consumers that wealth extraction is wealth creation. People genuinely believe that debt-financed consumption represents financial victory. They measure their Black Friday success by how much they spent, not by how much they saved. They compete with friends and family over who got the best deals while all of them increase their household debt levels. When I examine the financial statements of households that participate heavily in Black Friday shopping, I see consistent patterns: lower net worth, higher debt-to-income ratios, reduced emergency savings, more revolving credit balances. But these same households report higher satisfaction with their financial decisions during the fourth quarter. Their actual financial position deteriorates while their perceived financial success improves. That's not just effective marketing, that's economic warfare. The 5 specific traps I've identified operate independently of consumer awareness or education. They function regardless of income level, education level, or financial literacy. They work on careful shoppers, impulsive shoppers, and everyone in between. These aren't tricks you can avoid by being smart or careful. They're structural features of the modern retail environment that extract value from every participant regardless of their purchasing decisions. Have you ever wondered why every personal finance expert tells people to avoid Black Friday, but consumer spending increases every single year? Because the traps aren't targeting your logical decision-making process. They're targeting the neurological systems that operate below conscious awareness. The systems that control impulse, reward, and satisfaction. The systems you can't disable by knowing about them. But wait, before I completely destroy your faith in Black Friday forever, I need to be intellectually honest here. There's a compelling counterargument that I can't simply dismiss. Smart people genuinely believe Black Friday delivers real value, and some of their reasoning is actually solid. Let me present the strongest possible case for why Black Friday might actually be the financial opportunity that millions of consumers believe it is. Because if I'm going to tear down this system, I need to first acknowledge where it actually does work. The democratization argument is powerful. Black Friday does create a brief window where premium products become accessible to middle-class families who normally couldn't afford them. That $2,000 laptop selling for $899 isn't fake money. It's real purchasing power transferred from corporations to consumers. Consider a working family in Ohio. Household income around $58,000. 2 kids. The parents have been saving for months to buy their teenager a decent computer for college applications. Normally, they'd have to choose between a $400 machine that barely functions or going into debt for something adequate. Black Friday changes that equation. Suddenly, legitimate high-end electronics carry price tags they can actually afford. The $1,299 MacBook Air drops to $899. The $800 gaming console falls to $499. These aren't derivative models or downgraded versions. These are the exact same products, with the exact same warranties, offering genuine functionality at genuinely reduced prices. The volume economics make this possible. Retailers can afford to take lower margins on specific items because they're processing such massive transaction volumes. Fixed costs get distributed across millions of units instead of thousands. Distribution efficiency peaks. Inventory turnover accelerates. The operational leverage creates real cost savings that can be passed to consumers. But the benefits extend beyond individual purchase decisions. Black Friday functions as a massive economic stimulus event that creates measurable benefits across entire communities. Retail employment surges during Black Friday weekend. Temporary workers get hired. Overtime hours get distributed. Hourly employees see their largest paychecks of the year. The $67 billion spent during Black Friday weekend doesn't just enrich corporations. businesses. It flows directly into working-class households through wages and tips. The economic multiplier effect ripples through local communities. When families save $400 on electronics, they spend that money on other priorities: home repairs, car maintenance, children's activities, medical expenses they've been deferring. The savings from Black Friday purchases free up household budgets for essential expenses. Small businesses benefit indirectly. The foot traffic generated by major retailer promotions draws customers to shopping centers and downtown areas. Independent stores see increased walk-in visits. Restaurants and service businesses experience their busiest weekend of the year. Parking revenues spike. Local tax collections increase. From a macroeconomic perspective, Black Friday serves a critical function in consumer spending cycles. The concentrated purchasing activity helps retailers manage inventory efficiently while giving consumers pricing power they don't normally possess. Throughout most of the year, consumers make purchases individually, with no leverage over pricing. During Black Friday, millions of consumers effectively coordinate their purchasing decisions, creating temporary market power that forces retailers to offer genuine concessions. This coordination solves a fundamental problem in consumer markets: information asymmetry. Normally, retailers know exactly what their products cost to manufacture and distribute, while consumers can only guess. Black Friday advertising creates temporary pricing transparency. Consumers see direct comparisons between regular prices and sale prices across multiple retailers simultaneously. The competitive pressure becomes intense. When Best Buy advertises a television for $399, Target has to match or beat that price to avoid losing market share. When Amazon offers free shipping with no minimum purchase, every other retailer has to respond. This competition benefits consumers regardless of where they ultimately make their purchases. What about the psychological benefits? Critics focus on the neurochemical manipulation aspects of shopping, but they ignore the legitimate satisfaction that comes from successful financial planning and execution. Families spend months researching products, comparing prices, and developing Black Friday strategies. They create lists, they set budgets, they coordinate schedules. The planning process itself builds financial awareness and consumer education. When their strategy works and they acquire needed products at significantly reduced prices, the satisfaction is earned. They didn't fall for manipulation. They executed a plan that delivered measurable financial benefits. The social aspects matter too. Black Friday shopping becomes a shared cultural experience that strengthens family and friendship bonds. Parents teach children about budgeting and comparison shopping. Families coordinate their efforts to help each other find deals. Friends share information and strategies. These relationships have real economic value beyond the immediate savings. The networks and knowledge sharing that develop around Black Friday extend throughout the year. People become more informed consumers. They develop better financial habits. They learn to research purchases more thoroughly and negotiate more effectively. The technology argument is particularly compelling. Black Friday drives innovation in retail technology that benefits consumers year-round. Mobile apps get developed, website performance gets optimized, inventory management systems get refined, payment processing gets streamlined. These improvements reduce friction in the purchasing process for everyone. Better comparison shopping tools help consumers make informed decisions. Improved logistics reduce delivery times and costs. Enhanced security protects consumer data and payment information. Even the global expansion that critics view as concerning actually represents democratization of access. When Black Friday spreads to other countries, it breaks up local retail monopolies and gives consumers access to international pricing competition. Brazilian consumers no longer have to accept the limited selection and inflated prices offered by local retailers. They can access the same products at the same promotional prices available to American consumers. European consumers gain access to American brands and pricing models that weren't previously available. Is there any validity to the concerns about derivative models and quality reduction? Absolutely. Some retailers do create Black Friday-specific versions of popular products with reduced specifications, but market competition limits this practice. Consumers have become sophisticated about researching model numbers and specifications. Review websites expose quality differences immediately. Social media amplifies complaints about defective products instantly. Retailers that consistently offer poor quality Black Friday merchandise lose consumer trust and market share. The reputational costs of disappointing customers during their highest traffic weekend outweigh the short-term benefits of cost-cutting on product quality. More importantly, the vast majority of Black Friday merchandise is simply regular inventory marked down to move volume quickly. The seasonal timing creates opportunities operational benefits for both retailers and consumers. Retailers need to clear inventory before the next model year begins. Consumers need to make large purchases before the holiday season and the new tax year. Black Friday aligns these interests efficiently. The credit concern deserves examination too. Yes, consumer debt levels increase during the fourth quarter, but correlation doesn't prove causation. Holiday spending, gift purchases, travel expenses, and year-end bonuses all influence fourth quarter credit patterns. Families that plan carefully for Black Friday actually reduce their annual credit utilization by concentrating necessary purchases during promotional periods rather than spreading them throughout the year at higher prices. A family that buys their annual electronics needs during Black Friday, their clothing needs during back-to-school sales, and their household items during spring clearance events will carry lower average debt than a family that makes the same purchases at random times throughout the year. What about the behavioral manipulation concerns? The psychological research on consumer behavior doesn't necessarily prove manipulation. It might just prove effective communication. When retailers study what motivates consumer purchasing decisions, they're learning how to present product information more effectively. When they optimize store layouts and website designs, they're reducing friction and improving the shopping experience. The fact that these improvements increase sales doesn't automatically make them manipulative. Better customer experiences naturally lead to increased customer satisfaction and repeat business. Do you think the democratization of access to premium products during Black Friday creates enough genuine consumer value to justify the concerns about behavioral manipulation and debt accumulation? Now let me show you why every single argument I just made is either incomplete, misleading, or completely wrong. Because the believer's case sounds compelling until you examine the operational mechanics that make it possible. That Ohio family saving $400 on a laptop? They're about to spend $1,847 they didn't plan to spend. Not because they're impulsive or financially irresponsible, because the entire system is designed to convert their savings into much larger expenditures through mechanisms they can't see and won't recognize. Here's how it actually works. The laptop sale is what retailers call a loss leader with customer lifetime value optimization. They lose money on the laptop to acquire a customer whose total lifetime value will be exponentially higher than the initial loss. The family doesn't just buy the laptop, they buy the extended warranty for $199 because it seems prudent for such an expensive purchase. They buy the software package for $149 because the laptop needs productivity applications. They buy the protective case for $79 because they want to protect their investment. They buy the wireless mouse for $45 because the touchpad seems inadequate. Total additional purchases, $472. But that's just the immediate extraction. The laptop contains tracking software that monitors usage patterns, application preferences, and online behavior. This data gets sold to advertising networks for an average of $247 per user annually. The family doesn't know this is happening. They didn't consent to data harvesting. They're not receiving any compensation. The software they purchased requires a monthly subscription after the trial period expires. Average annual cost, $156. The warranty they bought specifically excludes the most common failure modes. When problems occur, repairs cost more than the warranty covers. Average out-of-warranty expense over 3 years, $289. The laptop's battery is designed to degrade after 18 months, requiring replacement or triggering desire for a newer model. The planned obsolescence timeline is calculated precisely to maximize replacement revenue while minimizing warranty claims. Total 3-year cost of ownership for their $899 laptop, $3,247. They didn't save $400. They committed to spending $3,247 over 3 years instead of $2,000 upfront for a business-grade machine that would last 5 years. But the extraction goes deeper. The purchase triggers algorithmic advertising across every digital platform the family uses. Their social media feeds fill with technology advertisements. Their email inboxes collect promotional messages from electronics retailers. Their streaming services start showing tech-focused commercials. The advertising isn't random. It's personalized based on their demonstrated willingness to purchase electronics during promotional periods. The psychological profile generated by their Black Friday purchase behavior makes them exponentially more valuable to advertisers. This is why that $800 gaming console for $499 exists. The console itself generates zero profit. The The profit comes from game sales, online subscription services, downloadable content, and in-game purchases spread across the device's operational lifetime. The average gaming console purchase during Black Friday generates $1,847 in additional revenue over 4 years. The savings of $301 converts into committed expenditures of nearly $2,000. Parents think they're buying a one-time entertainment device for their children. They're actually enrolling in a multi-year revenue extraction program disguised as gaming. Now let's examine that economic stimulus argument. Yes, retail employment increases during Black Friday weekend. But what happens to those workers afterward? 91% of Black Friday temporary employees are terminated within 2 weeks. They receive no benefits, no unemployment insurance eligibility, and no job training that transfers to other industries. The temporary income spike creates a false impression of economic opportunity while masking underlying employment instability. The overtime wages paid to regular employees get recouped through reduced hours in December and January. Annual total compensation doesn't increase. It just gets redistributed to create artificial urgency around Black Friday weekend. The $67 billion in consumer spending doesn't represent new economic activity. It represents shifted economic activity. Families spend their November and December budgets during Black Friday weekend, then reduce their spending for the rest of the quarter. January credit card statements reveal the real economic impact. Average household credit card debt increases by $1,200 during the fourth quarter. Interest payments on this debt average $156 annually. The economic stimulus of Black Friday spending becomes a permanent drag on household finances. Local businesses don't benefit from Black Friday foot traffic. They suffer from it. The massive promotional spending by major retailers draws customers away from small businesses during their most critical revenue period. Independent retailers can't compete with loss leader pricing from corporations that can absorb short-term losses to gain market share. Black Friday accelerates the consolidation of retail markets by making small business competition economically impossible. The democratization of access argument collapses when you examine what consumers actually get access to. They're not getting access to premium products. They're getting access to retail-specific versions of premium products that look identical but function differently. That MacBook Air for $899 isn't the same MacBook Air that normally costs $1,299. It's a Black Friday variant with reduced RAM, slower processing speeds, and limited storage capacity. The model number differs by a single digit. The specifications are buried in technical documentation that requires expertise to interpret. Apple doesn't advertise these differences because they're not legally required to. The product meets the basic definition of MacBook Air while delivering substantially reduced performance. Consumers comparison shop using the regular model's reviews and specifications, then purchase a derivative product that doesn't match those expectations. This practice is industry standard. Samsung creates Black Friday television models with cheaper display panels. Sony produces Black Friday headphone variants with reduced driver quality. Nike manufactures Black Friday shoe lines with different materials and construction methods. The same warranty claim is technically accurate but practically meaningless. The warranties cover the derivative products as manufactured, not the premium products that consumers researched. When performance issues arise, manufacturers correctly point out that the derivative products are functioning as designed. Consumer coordination through Black Friday doesn't create market power. It creates the illusion of market power while actually increasing retailer control over purchasing decisions. When millions of consumers concentrate their purchases into a single weekend, retailers gain massive advantages in inventory management, cash flow optimization, and demand forecasting. The coordination benefits retailers far more than consumers. Retailers can negotiate better terms with suppliers because they can guarantee specific volume commitments. They can optimize staffing and logistics because they know exactly when demand will peak. They can manipulate pricing more effectively because consumers have limited alternative shopping windows. The pricing transparency created by Black Friday advertising is selective transparency designed to support specific purchasing decisions. Consumers see the prices retailers want them to see, at the times retailers want them to see those prices. Regular pricing throughout the year becomes deliberately opaque to make Black Friday discounts appear more significant. Products get marked up in October specifically to enable dramatic November markdowns. This isn't competitive pricing pressure. It's coordinated pricing manipulation across the entire retail industry. The appearance of competition masks underlying pricing collusion. Let me give you a thought experiment that reveals how this really works. Imagine you're planning to buy a $500 refrigerator. You research models, compare features, and identify the best value option. 2 weeks before Black Friday, the price increases to $649. During Black Friday, it drops to $449. You congratulate yourself on saving $200 compared to the regular price of $649. But you actually paid $51 less than the price you originally researched, while purchasing during a period of maximum promotional pressure that likely triggered additional unplanned purchases. They don't need to lie to you or hide information from you. They just need to present accurate information in a sequence and context that guides your emotions toward the decisions they want you to make. This is why financial education doesn't work. Education targets the rational justification process, but that's not where the actual decisions get made. The decisions happen in emotional and neurological systems that operate faster than conscious thought and with more influence over behavior. You can understand intellectually that Black Friday is designed to extract wealth from consumers while still feeling compelled to participate. The understanding doesn't override the emotional and neurological responses that drive purchasing behavior. But here's the deeper issue that goes beyond individual consumer choices. The techniques that work on individual consumers also work on entire economic systems. Countries make trade decisions, monetary policy choices, and regulatory changes based on the same psychological principles that make individuals buy things they don't need with money they don't have. The global adoption of Black Friday wasn't just retail expansion. It was a test of whether behavioral manipulation techniques that work within American consumer culture could be exported to entirely different economic and social systems. The test succeeded. The same psychological frameworks that extract wealth from American families now extract wealth from families in completely different economic environments with different cultural values and different financial systems. This suggests that the vulnerability to wealth extraction through behavioral manipulation is a fundamental feature of human psychology, not a byproduct of American consumer culture or capitalist economic systems. If that's true, then the solution isn't better financial education or more consumer awareness. The solution requires changing the structural systems that make wealth extraction through behavioral manipulation profitable. But changing those systems requires collective action that's extremely difficult to coordinate when the manipulation techniques specifically target the psychological systems that enable collective action. People who feel smart about their individual purchasing decisions are less likely to question the systems that shape those decisions. People who believe they're saving money are less motivated to examine whether their overall financial position is actually improving. The genius of Black Friday is that it creates genuine satisfaction and real perceived value while systematically undermining the long-term financial stability of participants. The satisfaction is real. The value perception is real. The financial damage is also real. This combination makes resistance extremely difficult because the negative consequences are delayed and diffuse while the positive reinforcement is immediate and concentrated. You feel good about your Black Friday purchases immediately. You only discover the total cost months or years later, after the emotional satisfaction has been processed and stored as positive memory. By the time you understand what actually happened, you're psychologically committed to viewing the experience as positive. Recognizing the financial damage would require admitting that your judgment was compromised, which creates cognitive dissonance that's easier to resolve by maintaining the positive interpretation. The system is self-reinforcing in ways that make individual resistance nearly impossible and collective resistance extremely difficult to coordinate. So where does that leave us? What can you actually do with this information? The honest answer is that avoiding Black Friday individually won't solve the deeper problem. The techniques operating during Black Friday weekend are now embedded throughout the entire financial system. Avoiding one weekend of shopping won't protect you from a lifetime of wealth extraction through behavioral manipulation, but understanding how the system works does provide some protection, not because you can override your psychological responses, but because you can structure your financial decisions to limit the opportunities for those responses to cause damage. Automate your savings before you have access to the money. Use time delays for major purchases. Create physical barriers between your emotions and your payment methods. Design your financial system to work with your psychology rather than against it. More importantly, recognize that your individual financial success increasingly requires understanding and defending against systematic wealth extraction that operates regardless of your education, income, or financial sophistication. The game has changed. The tools and techniques that helped previous generations build wealth are now being used against wealth building. Success requires adapting to this new reality rather than trying to apply old strategies in a fundamentally different environment. The question isn't whether you're smart enough to avoid financial manipulation. The question is whether you're prepared to function effectively in an economic system specifically designed to extract wealth from everyone who participates in it. But perhaps the most important question is this: if behavioral manipulation has become the primary mechanism for wealth extraction in modern economies, what does that tell us about the long-term sustainability of the systems we're all participating in?